Welcome back to my series on Chief Gear, and I'm reviewing a follower's Chief Gear. We're going to start with infantry. So we have infantry red, 2 stars, and then over here we just have infantry red. And it's unclear to me whether that is that he's upgraded the left but not the right yet. But it kind of looks like that's probably what he's done, especially when we look down here at the marksman ring. The marksman ring is legendary, and the staff is T2 3 stars, so it's a little bit behind the ring. So, but not like really far behind, right? So I think that's probably what he's doing is he's upgrading one and then going back and we'll upgrade the other later. Whoops. Then we look at his Lancer gear, and it's T1 on that side and T1 on that side, both mythic or gold. And so they're twins. And so, we would want those to be upgraded. So, probably what I would suggest for a normal, just well rounded player who does still use Lancers. Some people have opted to minimize their use of Lancers, but if you're still using Lancers, you want them to be able to do their job. So you would want to bring these up probably to at least T2 before you upgraded anything else with the infantry and marksmen. And then once those are T2, then I would go in and upgrade the pants to 2 stars and the ring to legendary no stars. And then I would stair step them moving forward. Before we move on to charms, I do want to point out something that is a little unusual. And I don't normally get a report on with that includes stats, but I did for this guy. And I'm actually going to pull out a pen so I can help y'all see something. So we're going to start by looking at his Lancer attack and defense. You see it's 1315 and 1278. And then if you look at his infantry attack and his infantry defense, they're actually lower. So even though his chief gear for his Lancers is much lower than his infantry, his Lancer attack and defense are higher. And then if we look at marksman attack and defense, you can see that they're even higher than the Lancer. Okay? And this is going to be important. So I'm going to delete those. Okay. Then I'm going to talk about, we haven't talked about charms yet, but I do want to talk about the lethality and health, which the charms are what impacts these lethality and health. So we're just going to flag these. So if we look at lethality and health, we have 1076 and 908 for infantry. Lancer lethality and health are pretty low, 860 and 682. And then we have marksman lethality, which is 1045 and 780. My eyeballs are getting tired. 788. So his Lancer lethality and health are pretty low. So while his Lancer attack and Lancer defense are higher than infantry, his Lancer lethality and Lancer health are lower. And for health, we would kind of expect that as a general rule because infantry is naturally higher in health. The stats for a basic infantryman is higher than that for Lancers and marksmen. So we would expect that. But just looking at these numbers, I can tell you that even though we haven't looked at the charms, their charms are going to be lower. Now, looking at this, I would have guessed that his Lancer gear was equal to or higher than his infantry gear. So, I don't 100% know what's driving this increase in his Lancer attack compared to everybody else, but it is. I mean, not higher than Marksman, but it's pretty high. But here's the thing I want to talk about. Let me erase those. Okay. So here, this is an infantryman. You can tell he's infantry because he looks like a tank, right? He's covered in armor head to toe. And, whoops, we're gonna get rid of the pin so I don't keep barking it up. Okay, so we have the tank. And the next, this is kind of like an armored car, right? Like, he needs to be sturdy, but he doesn't need to be a tank. This is a Lancer. They're the next person behind the infantry. And so they're pretty much covered, but they're not a tank. And then we have the Marksman. The Marksman need much lighter gear. They have to be able to use the bow and arrow. They have to be able to see to shoot the bow and arrow. So their gear is significantly lighter. So that's how you tell who's who on one of these reports. Now I want to talk about the numbers. So, and I have never seen this formation. I mean, I've been playing for a year and I have never seen this formation. So I'm really curious. I'm going to have to do some research. And if you're watching this video, if you want to either drop me a comment or send me a DM explaining why you'll use this ratio, I'd really like to know if this is you or if you're familiar with this formation. So it's 536 infantry, 585 Lancers. So it's 50,000 more Lancers than it is infantry. And then it's 250,000 more Lancers than it is Marksmen. So this formation is probably like 38, 42, 20. Like that's, I mean, I'm not doing the math because I don't want to do math. I'm just guesstimating, right? And so looking at this, it is good that your Lancer attack and defense are higher, but we definitely, if this is the formation you're going to use and this is your preferred formation, then we definitely need to go back and rethink what we're doing here with our Lancer gear. Our Lancer gear needs to be much higher if we're relying that heavily on them. I know that the attack and defense was pretty high and higher than the infantry, but it definitely, we need to make sure that we are prioritizing our Lancer gear if we're going to have primarily Lancers in our formations. So let's pause that and let's chat about the charms. So for Marksman, we have 655, and over here we have 555, which, you know, as we've seen, he's promoting the left side before he does the right. But they're, you know, pretty closely matched. His infantry is higher than his Marksman because it's all 6s there. Over here it's all 5. So again, he's upgraded the left, but he hasn't touched the right. The only commentary I have on that is if he prioritized his Marksman, then they would have, they would be killing stronger and better at killing, and they would also be sturdier. And then, as suspected, his Lancer charms are significantly less. So they are 4s. Yeah, they're 4. Both sides are 4s. So if he's relying on his Lancers to do an attack, he needs to increase their lethality because he can't have them having, what was it, an 860 lethality, because looking at this, right, like he would want to use more marksmen, or I mean his infantry lethality is 1076 because of his charms. So he should definitely, look at that and how that's playing out. If he's basing this completely on his lancer attack and defense, then he's not killing. Like he's attacking and he's effective at attacking, but he's not necessarily killing, and he's not healthy. So his lancers are dying fast. And this is the only part of the report I have, but I just wanted to show that when you are considering what you upgrade, you need to think about what formations you're using. And, when you're starting out, you should be kind of a well-rounded. You're using 50, 20, 30 for attack and 60, 40, 0 for defense. And so you want to be well-rounded where your marksman, infantry, and lancer gear are all kind of together. You want your marksman charms to be higher, and you want your infantry chief gear to be higher. But if you, as you grow as a player and you learn, you're gonna find heroes you like more, and you're gonna find like maybe you love attacking but you hate sitting in a garrison, or maybe you like defense, right? Like you like having people bombard you attack after attack after attack, and you are like, yes, none of y'all can break through this wall. And maybe that's what you like. You're the defensive lineman of your alliance, right? That's great. We need you. But you want to prioritize upgrading based on the formations and the role that you play. So for me, I really am very fond of right now of 48 448. That's my preferred formation. So I would prioritize, if I'm thinking only of attack, I would prioritize infantry and marksmen. But I can't just prioritize infantry and marksmen because my alliance does not have a defensive specialist. So if I take a building, I probably have to sit in that building and garrison it as the captain. So I also need to have a strong defense. So I have to have both. And if I'm going to have both, I still like using lancers for defense. I have started to increase the number of marksmen. I used to have 0 marksmen, and I have started to increase the number of marksmen now that my marksmen's health stats are higher, and I can use them more defensively. But I still, a lot of times I still use 60-40. And so if I'm using 60-40, I cannot neglect my lancers because I'm relying so heavily on them. So that's what I would say about this. So for him, I think he needs to really upgrade. If he's going to use that formula where lancers are his the highest number of troops that he's using, then he really needs to upgrade his lancer gear and get it probably legendary 1-star. He doesn't have to go higher than infantry because his lancer attack and defense are already pretty high. He definitely needs to bring up those charms, though, before he touches any other charms. He needs to bring up the lancer charms and get them to where they're all 6s before he touches anything else. Anyways, so that's my feedback. I know I have a bunch of y'all in my queue. I'm getting to you as I can, as my health allows. I just ask that you continue to be patient with me. And my goal is to get everybody in my queue as of this moment done by Wednesday before I go to bed. Hope you have a good day.